Welcome back. In business news now, 3 major airlines in the UK have launched legal action against the government over what they call a flawed quarantine policy. British Airways, EasyJet and Ryanair say the 14-day compulsory quarantine for visitors will have a devastating effect on tourism and the wider economy. The latest data reveals the first full month of lockdown reflects an economy in severe trouble. GDP nosedived by more than 20% in April. The government has called the slump unprecedented. The hardest hit areas were pubs, education, health and car sales. But with shops and businesses set to reopen from next week, the government is hoping the worst is over.
Lots of new signs, distancing, screens. So I hope that when all these shops open, people should have the confidence to know that they can go out again in safety. And that's very important.
And for more, let's speak to Ollie Barrett. So, Ollie, dismal GDP numbers, but the government, they remain positive.
Yeah, these GDP numbers somehow not that surprising, but utterly astonishing at the same time. We have never seen anything like this in terms of a monthly slump in GDP since records began. It's much higher than any previously comparable number. In fact, the previously biggest slump in monthly GDP was last month. So we really are in unprecedented times. Some hope for the economy in that some sectors of it can start to reopen a little bit more from Monday. So the government will hope that the worst is perhaps behind the UK economy. But one reason that that can certainly not be taken for granted is that we are also heading into a period now in the coming weeks and months where many of those employees up and down the country, as many as 9 million workers having their wages currently paid by the state as part of the UK government's furlough scheme, that is going to start being unwound. And when it is, will we see many of those people not going back to work and actually adding to the numbers of unemployed in the UK? So the UK government insisting it will remain interventionist and activist and will do what is needed to support the economy in terms of potential tax cuts and industry by industry, sector by sector packages of support. But these are very uncertain times indeed for the UK economy.
And Ollie, the government is also facing a legal challenge over its quarantine plans for air travellers, also weighing on their minds.
Absolutely. Airlines want to get a judicial review at the High Court. They have a specific list of grievances that make up this legal challenge. They say that the quarantine measures being put in place for international arrivals to the UK are actually more stringent than for people in the UK who test positive for COVID-19. They say that the UK government has not gone through any consultation with the industry. They say the UK government has not provided any scientific evidence that this is the right policy at the right time. They also say that people are being stopped from travelling to and from countries that have a lower infection rate currently than the United Kingdom. Now, this 3-week initial period of this quarantine measure being in place will be reviewed at the end of that period. There is some suggestion that it may not be in place for long, but I think the airlines want to keep the pressure on the government here. And what we may also see in the coming days and weeks is some further detail on those so-called air bridges, the idea that the UK will come to bilateral agreements with countries around the world to open up travel to and from those countries without the need for quarantine on the return to the United Kingdom.
Many thanks for that update. Ollie Barrett speaking to us from London.